Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final episode of AM Sports with Sachs, Madeo, and Edwards for the semester. How are we doing, fellas?
We're doing really good. Hey, first round.
First round today.
It's draft day.
Lot of excitement around the NFL. As Armand mentioned, we have the NFL draft beginning today after a 2-week delay, the way that it used to be at the end of April, but now it is pushed back to mid-May, as we're in right now. And, a lot of people, this builds the anticipation, and it gives people like Mel Kiper Jr. and Todd McShay an extra 2 weeks to put out another, 10 mock drafts, and that there are all the questions about who's going to trade their draft picks, and who's going to go where. Is someone going to drop? Is someone going to be a surprise early pick? But let's jump right into it. The Houston Texans have the number 1 pick, and a lot of people are thinking they're going Jadeveon Clowney. Do you think Clowney's going 1 to Houston? Well, first, do you think Houston's keeping the number 1 pick?
Yeah, I absolutely think that Houston's going to keep the number 1 pick. Houston Texans, normally they played, their formation last year was a 3-4, and I think that Jadeveon Clowney would be a good asset on the side. Recently in the offseason, they dealt Antonio Smith to Oakland, so they have J.J. Watt on the other end. So I think with Jadeveon Clowney, that will be a twin-headed monster, and that will just be a swarming pass rush for Andrew Luck and the Colts, and maybe the Texans could get back to that playoff intensity defense that they've been accustomed to the last couple of years, until last year, of course, when they just fell off. But with the addition of Clowney with the number 1 pick would be a tremendous pick for the Houston Texans. If not Jadeveon Clowney, I would definitely go with Khalil Mack from Buffalo. That this guy has tremendous upside to him. He's a speedy pass rusher. He's able to drop back in the zone, and every time he puts his hands up on the line, and he's always hustling on the field, and I think either Jadeveon Clowney or Khalil Mack would be the best number 1 pick for the Houston Texans. I would not draft Johnny Manziel with the first pick. I think since the Texans have an early second-round pick, I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to slide down, and I think they're going to draft Teddy Bridgewater in the second round with their first pick.
Yeah, I think he would be a good fit for the Houston Texans. I mean, the guy has, a rare combination of size, explosiveness and quickness as well, strength, and then just an array of pass rush moves. I feel like the Houston Texans should definitely invest in this guy. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and another thing, the Houston Texans, their division's not competitive. They have the Jacksonville Jaguars and who's the other team? Tennessee Titans, and all they have to really worry about is the Colts. So if they by drafting Jadeveon Clowney, I feel like all they need is defense in this division. They don't need to be killing their competition with offense, because these teams are not offensive superior teams. So definitely go with either Khalil Mack or Jadeveon Clowney with the first pick.
I think I concur. I think they're going to take Clowney with the number 1 pick. A lot of people have been saying Clowney is the top prospect in the draft, and just a force on the defensive line. His stats did go down his final year of college, and the year prior he was just an absolute beast.
You remember that hit he had?
Oh, that was like the top play on SportsCenter
for 2 years.
For probably at least a month. I mean, that was just brutal. Really, he could have just shown that to NFL teams and say draft me because of that. I mean, he's that he would make that defensive line with J.J. Watt.
I'm telling you.
Just absolutely, you do not want to mess with that defensive line with the combination of Clowney and J.J. Swat. But, Houston did have some quarterbacking troubles last year. That there was a whole, Matt Schaub was getting booed. It was pretty bad for the Texans. So I don't think it would be out of the question for them to go quarterback here. They shouldn't. I think they should take Clowney one, and I think they will. But it wouldn't shock me if they do quarterback. But I think that because this draft is so loaded with a lot of quarterbacking talent, and there's no one
who outshines the other,
who's absolutely a must-have quarterback, the way Andrew Luck was when he was coming out of college, or the way that Peyton Manning was when he was coming out of college. But there's no one player that you absolutely know is going to be an all-star for the next 15 years. So I think that they could definitely still get a really good quarterback talent later in the draft, as you said, second round, third round, maybe.
Because there'll be a couple of guys dropping down the second round. Like I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to drop. You'll have people like AJ McCarron down there, the guy from Eastern Illinois. His name's not coming to my head right now, but he's going to be down there. Menberger might be there. Aaron Murray. There's going to be a lot of guys who will be available in the second round who the Texans can go to, but I don't feel like there's any favorable quarterback right now. Yes, Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football, he's got all the hype. He's got all the resources that have made him become who he is today. But I right now I don't see a number one. I don't see a quarterback worthy to be the number one pick in this year's draft. But Javian Clowney is worthy of that number one pick because he is an all-star for years to come.
Yeah, the Northern Illinois quarterback that Armand was referencing is Jordan Lynch,
he's up there.
At Northern Illinois just put together a phenomenal career.
He's a sleeper pick, I think. He can go in the second or third round.
He would be a really good pick. As you said, second, third round. He's not a first rounder, but at Northern Illinois last year, he threw for 28, almost 2,900 yards, 4 touchdowns,
no picks, really.
only 8 interceptions.
8 interceptions is great
for his career. 51 touchdowns and only 14 picks.
That's starting quarterback numbers.
That's a great statistic right there. That's like.
Maybe he's the Russell Wilson this draft. You never know.
Just might.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Now, I know Northern Illinois doesn't exactly have the toughest schedule compared to the teams like in the SEC or the Big 12, but when you're putting up numbers like that.
That's the same argument that could be said about Blake Bortles. You know how he hasn't played in the most competitive conference.
Yeah, I'm not on the Bortles bandwagon.
The only thing I will say about Bortles is he has tremendous size for a quarterback. He has that Peyton Manning or that Tom Brady physical
pocket
demeanor.
presence.
He's like 6'5", 240. He's kind of a hard guy to bring down, and like he has an arm. And he has good footwork. He has good mechanics. He can get out of the pocket, stretch his legs. But the only thing about him is if he's ready and that he will be able to, won't be trigger happy and just throw the ball wherever. A big step for these rookie quarterbacks is if they can get their ball placement down packed and don't become erratic in the pocket.
The quarterback that I'm really liking in this draft is Zach Mettenberger out of LSU. He just is such an exciting player to watch that I think he really has a future here, and you know what, he's not going to be a top 5, top 10, probably not even first round.
No, I think he's going second,
but
still capable of doing big things though.
But I really think that he's got a tremendous upside, and if I was taking a quarterback, I think I might take him. I mean, he just now I know that there's the whole thing where he missed a significant portion of
ACL.
the games last year, and he did somewhat fail a drug test for the NFL, but I just think that this player is so exciting to watch that he could bring a lot of energy to a franchise that is really in need of a spot on shot caller. And I think that this guy would be a great investment. In 2013, he threw for 3,082 yards, 22 touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions. I mean, that's a pretty good total right there.
Well, my number one quarterback in the draft is looking like Mr. Johnny Football, Johnny Manziel. All right, Johnny Manziel. I mean, the guy had a great career, at Texas A&M. I mean, he was quite the party goer at times, as we know. But he showed his tenacious commitment and dedication and work ethic. And I mean, you look at the kid. He has just remarkable maneuverability. He has excellent agility and burst, straight line speed. I mean, for an undersized player, he has those large hands. That his coach compared to that of Drew Brees, another undersized player. And
Yeah, I think he's like 5'11", 5'10".
Yeah, I mean, he's proven to step up in big moments. And Mr. King James said, in fact, that he wanted him to be number one in the draft, right?
Yeah, exactly. The only thing that I question about Johnny Manziel is that his mechanics are a little questionable. Sometimes in college, he'll drop back in the pocket and he's about to get swarmed. He'll throw up a pass off balance while getting hit in the air. You got to throw that ball out of bounds because in the NFL, you're going to throw a pass like that, it's going to get picked off. And some of these throws will get pulled down because he had a receiver like Mike Evans who could pull down anything. So he can't be. He loves to maneuver around the pocket. He's not a steady quarterback, which is good. But it's just he's gonna need to be able to decipher the moment and when he should make a throw and when he should not make a throw. And that's the only thing that questions me about Johnny Football.
What worries me about Manziel, I like him a lot. I think he's definitely going to be a solid starter in the NFL. But what worries me is that his game is similar to that of Tim Tebow. I mean, he's
Sure.
He's got a better arm than Tebow. Definitely.
Better ball placement too.
So exactly. So I mean, I think he's got more talent than Tebow, and will do better in the NFL. But he's kind of like that threat that spread him out and let's just see what happens. I'll either throw it deeper or I'll run it, and as we've seen with Tebow, the NFL is a lot more conventional than that kind of style of offense. So I fear that he might not be able to fit into a system. And the NFL is a very conservative system based. You have your running back and your quarterback stays in the pocket and throws it. And Manziel doesn't fit into that typical quarterback. Now, can an NFL team change their system and build it around Manziel? Absolutely. And if they do that, I think they'll have a ton of success. But the NFL is a league where a lot of people stay with a certain mold, and Manziel is definitely a unique breed.
Oh, most definitely. The thing that has become more, I don't know what I would say. I would probably say like unique about the NFL and sort of shying away from its older days is that the running back element of the NFL is starting to fade away. Most teams are focusing in on the quarterback. Like if you look at majority of the teams, they don't run the ball that often anymore in the NFL. only teams like Minnesota with Adrian Peterson, you'll see someone carrying the ball 20 rushes a game. There's not that many teams who are gonna ground and pound anymore. They want to spread the floor, and then they want to hit you downfield with the big play action pass. So, and the good thing about this draft is that there's not that many good running backs. I think they have Carlos Hyde, maybe is predicted to go first round. So that's questionable. This draft is all about quarterback and prominent wide receivers.
Excellent segue. You know, we've spent a lot of time talking about the quarterbacks in the NFL in this draft class, but there are a plethora of top wide receiver prospects, and I'd like to get your guys' take on, you know, who you would think would be the premier wide receiver to take in this draft. Like, if you were a GM, who would be your guy at wide receiver?
Well, like I said before, this is a wide receiver draft class. So, and what I mean by that is you have speedy slot wide receivers in Odell Beckham and Brian Cooks from Oregon State. And you have those guys who are big red zone targets like Kelvin Benjamin and Cody Lattimore. So it's all based on what kind of system you play. Like someone with the Eagles, they're probably going to want someone like Odell Beckham, or the Jets, they're going to want someone who's going to go downfield and just throw a deep pass. Or someone like the Broncos or the Patriots are going to want someone who's a big red zone target like Kelvin Benjamin or Cody Lattimore, so he can throw it, so Brady or Manning could throw a fade in the corner and they can bring it down. But also, I can't forget about Mike Evans. Right now, the best wide receiver in this draft is got to be Sammy Watkins or Mike Evans. I would honestly take Mike Evans over Sammy Watkins because Mike Evans he's bigger. He's got 4 inches on Sammy Watkins. He's got 30 pounds on him. And Mike Evans could be like, he could be like a Larry Fitzgerald or a Calvin Johnson. He has the body, and he has the hands of both of those guys. Now all he needs is the experience and the mindset to get him to the next level. And I think if Mike Evans goes to a team like, say if someone like Atlanta was to draft Mike Evans and he can work with someone like Julio Jones or Roddy White, they could take Mike Evans to that next level. And I think Mike Evans is going to be a stud in this league. I think he's going to be an all-star. So is Sammy Watkins, but I would take Mike Evans.
I would take the junior wide receiver out of LSU, actually. I would take Jarvis Landry. Yeah, that's who I would take. I mean, if you look at the stats. I mean, his junior campaign, the guy compiled, 77 catches, 1,093 yards, 10 touchdowns. I mean, he has a solid frame and quickness. And, I mean, he's a good route runner. You know, he knows how to be patient behind his blocks. You know, he excels in the screen game, which, you know, he could fit well in the West Coast offense that way. So I would go with Jarvis Landry as my number 1 wide receiver, believe it or not.
I'm going, you know, he's a good pick. He's going to be a solid NFL quarterback, but I got to go with Armand, with Mike Evans. Yes, he's got Johnny Manziel throwing him the ball. That obviously helps a lot, but this guy just has an NFL build, has an NFL, you know, definitely NFL material. I mean, in the shootout against Alabama, who's got one of the premier defenses.
Yeah, secondary is amazing out there.
Secondary is absolutely amazing. He had 7 receptions for 279 yards. He caught 279 yards against the top defense in the nation. I mean, you know, one of the top defenses in the nation with probably the best secondary. You know, that right there, and then against Auburn, team that won the SEC and was almost the national champions, 11 receptions, 287 yards.
That's a good point too, because, you know, Mike Evans has been going against the best secondaries in football, the best corners and the best safeties. He plays Auburn every year. He plays Alabama. He plays Florida. He plays Georgia. In the ACC, all you really got to worry about is Florida State. Miami was not that good last year, so Sammy Watkins really only played one premier good defense in Florida State. So I think Mike Evans has seen the competition and has beat the competition.
Yeah, playing in the SEC, he had 5 games where he put up more than 100 receiving yards. I mean, and the SEC is pretty much the NFL. So I mean, he's definitely a premier talent at wide receiver, and as Armand said, when you're going up against the best and putting up those kind of numbers, that should tell you something. And he's projected to be a top 10 first round draft pick, and I think that ranking is definitely deserving. But we've been spending a lot of time on the offensive side of the ball, minus when we were talking about Clowney. But other than Clowney, who's a premier defensive player that can go in this draft?
I mean, there's a couple guys I like. I said Khalil Mack before out of Buffalo. On the edge, he's a speedy pass rusher. He sort of reminds me of Aldon Smith. He's got the same speed and tenacity to get to the ball. Another guy, Anthony Barr out of UCLA. Absolute monster. He's a big boy. I could see him going to someone like Dallas in the 16th pick in mid first round. Someone like Dallas could use him after losing DeMarcus Ware, putting him on the line. He's got a lot of potential to be a premier speedy pass rusher. And there's a lot of great guys. I mean, we have 2 good corners, and I think they're going to be great corners to come, especially Justin Gilbert of Oklahoma State. This guy is a great man-to-man corner. And, he's got the speed. He's got the hands. He has the eyesight of covering both sides of the ball, and he could even switch up to some zone. And Marcus Denard out of Michigan State also has the potential of being a solid starter in this league. So, I mean, there's great notable players on most of the positions in this draft. The only position is the middle linebacker. I don't see that many guys. I see a lot of good outside linebackers, but not the middle linebackers.
I'm going with Aaron Donald, defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah. He's a good pick.
Yeah,
so is Jimmy Jernigan from Florida State.
Yeah, there you go, exactly. I mean, when you look at the guy, I mean, the way he comes off the snap, it's like the dude just shot out of a cannon, honestly. Like, his first step, routinely beats opponents, for immediate pressures, and I feel like he has a good, effective arm over swing move, although, he doesn't do it often enough. That would probably be the impediment to him, but he has a good leverage advantage, I feel like, which he could definitely use to get under the pads of opponents, and drive them into the backfields on bull rushes. So
he certainly does, especially against other nose tackles, because he's a speedy defensive tackle. Most defensive tackles are just like 290 pounds, 300 pounds, like 6'6". They're just big, hefty guys who are just gonna clog up the run game up the middle. But Aaron Donald, like you said, brings a new element to the game because he's a speedy defensive tackle, and you don't see that very often in the NFL. So that could be a tremendous asset to his character.
I'm going with the linebacker C.J. Mosley out of Alabama. This guy is, Alabama's one of the top defenses in the country, and Mosley's been a staple on that defense.
The heart and soul of it.
I mean, last year putting up a ton of tackles, recording 4 games of at least where he put up double-digit tackles. He's just got such a great ability at the linebacking position, and he's going to be an immediate force. Just look at all the success that Alabama's defensive players have had in the NFL in recent years. You've got the D. Milners, you've got Donta Hightower. Like, really, any defensive player coming out of Alabama, is going to be a solid player in the NFL. And I think Mosley, just continues that line of great Tide defenders.
You know what I like about Mosley too, besides what you said about the tackling, and he's a really good hitter. He's able to play the zone too. Mosley, he's able to pick up who comes in and out of the zone. He communicates. He's a good leader for that Alabama team, and I think that he's gonna migrate the whole leadership attributes that he has to his ball club in the NFL, and I think that Mosley will be a solid middle linebacker. He sort of plays like a London Fletcher. He's able to read the zone, and he's able to pick up who's going to come in and out. And I think Mosley is a really good pick by Ian.
Yeah, I think I heard that the Giants might be thinking about taking him with their first round pick.
They need a middle linebacker.
I think that would be a great pickup by New York, and I hope they do that, because then we get to see a lot of Mosley with the Giants being on on the local stations. So I think that would be
although if I was the Giants, I would go for an offensive tackle, because Eli was getting hit like a piñata.
That's the thing with a lot of these teams, that they have a lot of needs, and
they don't have that many picks, so they have to everything. This is really hard for. I don't know how a GM could pull off one guy and be like, all right, we're gonna sign him to a 4-year contract. Hopefully he can stay healthy and be an asset to this ball club. But it's like, how you go like from when you need an offensive tackle and you also need a middle linebacker, on how they choose which one.
Yeah, you gotta
really hard. A lot of time and preparation goes into this.
You gotta look at who you think is gonna be available there, and you have to look at what need you think you need to fill more. And I think that you got to look, when you factor in those two things between what's available and what you need more, that's how you get your decision. But hey, it's tough. I know that I would definitely have a few panic attacks in the weeks leading up to the draft. I mean, I don't know how they do it. I know for my fantasy sports, I'm all nervous about who I'm going to take, and that's a make believe thing. So when their job is riding on how well they're doing, it's nerve wracking. It really is. But we will see how the whole draft shakes up. 7 rounds in the next few days. Round 1 tonight, 8 o'clock, ESPN. And then coverage continuing tomorrow and throughout the weekend. And, it's an exciting time. It really is. And so it's your football action in between the Super Bowl and when training camps start in
August. July.
Yeah. July they start training.
Preseason starts.
Training, and then
August.
Preseason games are in August. So it's a fun and exciting time, and we will see how it shakes up, and how these players that get their name called this weekend will turn out to be in the fall. So we will take a quick break, and we will be back to talk some NBA playoffs.